I used to believe that some loves were built like fortresses, with walls so thick and foundations so deep that no storm could ever breach them. My marriage to Mark was my fortress. For 12 years, we had been the golden couple, the ones who met in college, built careers in Silicon Valley, bought a charming craftsman-style home in a leafy San Jose suburb, and were now navigating the beautiful chaos of raising our 7-year-old daughter, Lily. We were a picture of modern, comfortable success. Mark was a sought-after software architect, his mind a labyrinth of elegant code. I, Elena, had built a successful freelance graphic design business from our sun-drenched home office. Our life was a carefully curated symphony of school runs, PTA meetings, weekend trips to Half Moon Bay, and quiet evenings on the porch swing, our fingers intertwined, talking about everything and nothing. Trust was the bedrock. It was in the way I never questioned his late nights during a product launch, and the way he never doubted my business trips to Los Angeles. We had joint everything: bank accounts, dreams, a life. We were Mark and Elena, a single hyphenated entity. The thought of infidelity was so alien, so ludicrous. It belonged in the realm of bad television dramas, not our pristine, well-ordered world. The first hairline fracture in my fortress was so subtle I almost missed it. It was a new cologne, something musky and expensive, that appeared on his bathroom shelf. A gift from the team for closing the Davidson account, he said offhandedly. Then it was the new passcode on his iPhone. Corporate security policy, he explained with a shrug. I, the trusting wife, accepted it all. Why wouldn't I? The fabric of our life was still strong, or so I thought. The morning of the discovery was painted in the bland colors of routine. Mark, in his signature crisp white shirt and the blue tie I loved, gulped down his black coffee, kissed my cheek, and ruffled Lily's hair. Big meeting today. Might be late, he said, his voice a familiar, warm baritone. The door closed behind him with a definitive thud that echoed through our quiet home. Later, fueled by a sudden burst of domestic zeal, I decided to tackle the garage. Our dark blue Ford Explorer, our family adventure mobile, sat under a fine layer of dust, its tires static, a sad testament to how much we'd been using Mark's company Tesla. A wave of nostalgia hit me. I remembered road trips to Yosemite, the back seat filled with Lily's laughter and the smell of picnic sandwiches. I would clean it. It would be a surprise, a tangible reminder of our shared history. I found the cleaning supplies and set to work with a strange, happy fervor. I vacuumed up crumbs, wiped down the seats, and smiled at the faint crayon mark Lily had left on the center console. It felt like an act of love, a reconsecration of our family unit. Then I opened the glove compartment. It was an automatic gesture, one of thoroughness. I pulled out the car manual, a half-empty pack of tissues, and a crumpled map of California. And then my fingers brushed against a small square box tucked at the very back. I pulled it out. The world stopped. It was a box of condoms, Trojan, ultra-ribbed. The plastic seal was intact, gleaming under the fluorescent garage light. It was a brand we had never used. We had stopped using protection years ago, after Lily was born, when we were actively, hopefully trying for a second child. A coldness, sharp and immediate, spread from my fingertips up my arm, freezing the very blood in my veins. My breath hitched, trapped in a throat that had suddenly gone desert dry. The cheerful classic rock playing from my phone on the workbench became a distant, mocking hum. No, there's an explanation. A stupid, clumsy, innocent explanation. My mind, in a state of sheer panic, began frantically building life rafts. Maybe it was a prank from his buddy Steve. Maybe he bought them for a bachelorette party gag and forgotten. Maybe they were old, a relic of a pre-Lily era I'd somehow missed all these years. But the box was new, the packaging was current, and the way it was hidden, shoved behind the map like a shameful secret, screamed of intention. I slammed the glove box shut, the sound unnaturally loud in the silence. I stumbled back, my legs buckling, and leaned against the cold concrete wall, sliding down to the floor. The tears didn't come. This was a pain beyond tears, a seismic shock that shattered my reality without making a sound. I sat there for an hour, maybe two, the dust motes dancing in the slivers of sunlight, each one a mocking reminder of a life that was a lie.
The woman who walked back into the house was not the same woman who had skipped out to the garage. The trusting Elena was gone, replaced by a colder, sharper creature, forged in the fires of betrayal. I didn't confront him. A confrontation would mean words, excuses, lies, and potentially a chance for him to talk his way out of it. I couldn't risk my resolve crumbling. I needed proof. I needed action. I needed him to feel a fraction of the visceral, gut-wrenching pain I was feeling. The idea didn't come in a flash of rage, but as a cold, settled plan. It formed as I watched him that evening, laughing as he helped Lily with her math homework, completely oblivious to the crater he had blown through my soul. He was an actor on a stage, and I was now the audience, seeing the performance for what it was. The next day, after dropping Lily at school, I drove to a specialty Mexican grocery store a few towns over, where I wouldn't be recognized. I bought a bag of dried ghost peppers, among the hottest in the world. The man at the counter warned me, "Be careful with these, senora. They are no joke." I gave him a thin, lifeless smile. I know. Back home, in my kitchen, the heart of our home where I had cooked countless family meals, I put on a pair of yellow latex gloves. With the methodical precision of a bomb disposal expert, I ground the peppers into a fine, incendiary powder in my mortar and pestle. The air filled with an acrid, dangerous scent that made my eyes water. I didn't cry. The burn felt like a purification. I retrieved the box from the glove compartment. With steady hands, I opened it. One by one, I carefully unrolled each condom and dusted its entire surface with the vicious powder, ensuring it was thoroughly, irrevocably coated. I re-rolled them with painstaking care, placed them back in their foil wrappers, and slotted them perfectly back into the box. I sealed it, wiped it clean of any fingerprints, and returned it to its hidden nest in the Explorer. It was an act of silent, surgical warfare. I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was nemesis. The following days were a masterclass in deception. I became the perfect wife. I made his favorite meals, lasagna, garlic bread, chocolate chip cookies. I asked about his work. I listened intently. I laughed at his jokes. I initiated sex, my skin crawling in his touch, my mind screaming even as my body performed its wifely duty. I was an Oscar-worthy actress, and my home was my stage. He, emboldened by my apparent ignorance, grew sloppier. The late nights became more frequent. He bought a new, sleek gym bag he took with him everywhere. He'd shower the moment he came home, washing away the scent of her perfume, a cloying, sweet jasmine I now recognized. He'd started leaving his Apple Watch on the charger, its screen dark and silent. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place one Tuesday afternoon. A last-minute client dinner, he said. A gut feeling, a cold certainty, told me to follow. I drove our second car, a nondescript Honda Civic, and tailed his Tesla at a safe distance. He didn't go to a restaurant in Palo Alto. He drove to the Cypress Hotel, a boutique, romantic place nestled in the hills of Los Gatos. I parked across the street, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. And then I saw them. He was holding the door open for her, Chloe. Her blonde hair was catching the last of the evening sun. She was laughing, her hand resting possessively on his arm. She was wearing a vibrant red dress. I sat there frozen as they disappeared inside. The betrayal was no longer an abstract concept. It had a face, a laugh, a red dress. I drove home in a trance. The ghost of them burned onto the back of my eyelids. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait. The call came 2 nights later, just after 10 p.m. Lily was asleep. I was sitting in the dark living room, staring at the blank television screen. My phone lit up with an unknown number. I knew with a chilling certainty who it was. I answered. "Hello? Elena, is that you?" It was Chloe's voice, shrill and panicked, punctuated by ragged sobs. "It's Mark. Something's happened. Something's wrong." "Calm down, Chloe," I said, my voice unnervingly steady. "What's wrong?" I used her name deliberately, a small, sharp knife twist. He's in agony. He says he's burning. And then he just started screaming." Her words tumbled out, a chaotic mess of fear and confusion. "We're at the El Camino Hospital. He's begging for help. The doctors, they're asking questions. They don't believe it's an allergy." I listened, saying nothing, letting her hysteria wash over me. I could hear Mark groaning in the background, a raw, animal sound of pain. A part of me, the part that had loved him for over a decade, recoiled in horror, but the larger, colder part felt a grim, dark satisfaction. "What did you do to him?" Chloe shrieked, her fear turning to accusation. "I have no idea what you're talking about," I said. "It sounds like a personal problem." I ended the call and sat in the profound silence, the ghost of a smile on my lips. justice. Justice, in its most primitive form, had been served. The fallout was swift and merciless. The El Camino incident, as it became known, became Silicon Valley's scandal of the season. The story of the high-flying tech executive and his project manager, their illicit tryst ending in a frantic, humiliating trip to the emergency room with severe chemical burns to their genitals, was too salacious to contain. It spread through LinkedIn, Blind, and every Slack channel at his company. The official diagnosis was severe contact dermatitis and chemical irritation caused by a capsaicin-based foreign substance. The doctors were clear. This was no accident.
When Mark finally slunk back home, pale and broken, the confrontation was anticlimactic. "The condoms in the Explorer," I said, not as a question, but a statement. We were in the kitchen. I was leaning against the counter, arms crossed. He was slumped at the table. He didn't even try to deny it. The fight had been scorched out of him. He just nodded, his face in his hands. "It was Chloe. For about 8 months. I'm so sorry, Elena. It was a mistake. It meant nothing." The classic cowardly refrain. It meant nothing. As if that made it better. As if betraying your vows, shattering your family for something that meant nothing, was a lesser crime. I felt nothing. No rage, no sadness. Just a vast, empty stillness. "Get out," I said, my voice quiet but absolute. He moved into a sterile apartment complex in Sunnyvale. As I began the process of filing for divorce, I dug into our finances. The discoveries were a fresh wave of betrayal. There were charges for hotel rooms, expensive dinners at Alexander's Steakhouse, and a receipt for a diamond bracelet from Tiffany & Co. A bracelet I had never seen. He had been funding his double life with our shared money. The money for Lily's college fund, for our retirement. I also contacted David, Chloe's husband. He was a quiet, kind-eyed architect. We met at a Starbucks in Mountain View. I showed him the evidence, the credit card statements, the photos I'd managed to get from a private investigator. He listened, his shoulders slumping further with each revelation. "I had my suspicions," he said, his voice thick, "but knowing it's different. Thank you, Elena, for the truth." He filed for divorce the next day. Their marriage, it turned out, had also been a facade. In the months that followed, David and I, bound by our shared trauma, became an unexpected source of support for each other. It started with texts. "How are you holding up?" Then progressed to coffee. Then to walks along the Baylands Nature Preserve. We weren't looking for love. We were two survivors huddling for warmth in the emotional winter that had been forced upon us. We talked for hours. We shared our anger, our humiliation, the gut-wrenching difficulty of explaining the situation to our children. We didn't have to pretend to be strong with each other. We could be broken, and that was okay. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the dynamic shifted. The conversations became less about the past and more about the present. We discovered a shared love for old Hitchcock films and terrible B-movies. We started joking again. The first time I heard him laugh, a real, genuine laugh, it was like hearing a forgotten, beautiful song. A year after our worlds had exploded, we went on an actual date. It was awkward and wonderful. We held hands, and it didn't feel like a betrayal of our pasts, but a quiet claim on a possible future. Our love story is not one of passionate, reckless abandon. It is a story of quiet understanding, of profound respect, of two people who know the exact cost of a lie. We are careful with each other's scars. We value transparency above all else. Mark and Chloe's affair burned white hot and fast, leaving only ashes and ruin. What David and I are building is different. It's a slow, steady burn, like the embers in a hearth, designed to provide warmth for a lifetime. We don't live in a fortress anymore. Those can be prisons. We live in a house with open windows, where the light streams in, and we are no longer afraid of what the outside world might bring. I survived. I was shattered, but I picked up the pieces and reassembled myself into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The pain didn't destroy me. It forged me. And in the end, from the rubble of two broken homes, we managed to build something new, something true, and something uniquely ours.